Since this car is for the kids, it only seems appropriate that we have a stack of Ninjamas as our workbench to start. All the screws have already been removed for quick disassembly. Here's an overview of how the car runs. So we have the seat, we have this protective cover. In here, we have the motor. This is the 6-volt, 7 amp hour battery. And then the motor controller and all the electronics. For the batteries, we are going from 6-volt, 7 amp hour up to 12-volt, 24 amp hour. This will give us more power and also longer range so that we can actually make a lap around the neighborhood. So this company does make 6 and 12-volt versions of various models. However, I don't know if this is the same board used across all models or if this is only for 6 volts. So we're going to be kind of taking a risk running at 12 volts and see what happens. It may last for 5 minutes, it may break instantly, or it could be completely fine long term. But to help mitigate it at least a little bit, I'm just going to be adding a few heat sinks sprinkled around it just to dissipate some of the extra heat. Hopefully to give it a slightly longer life. For the motor, not really too worried about doing 12 volts instead of 6 volts. In general, you can get away with some pretty severe overvolting. For the bottom side, I'm going to go and cut a couple holes in the enclosure and then go and use a thermal pad to help tie the bottom of the board to the heat sinks to take off a little bit of heat. Alright, obviously these are far from perfect as far as size. There's just some scrap material I had laying around. But I'm just trying to help out the electronics a little bit from overheating if we run into any problems. But it definitely won't hurt. Any little bit should help things out. So what we're going to do is put a few more layers on here. And the idea is that we want a little bit of engagement to the bottom of the circuit board because you have all of the essentially solder connections that are fairly pointy on the bottom side. So this will need to go over the topology. So we're gonna create a little bit of an interference fit so that when you screw it down, it'll kind of go and push into the thermal pad. Alright, gonna do a little test fit. Let's put it in, push it down, and see if we have some nice denting. That'll confirm we're getting good engagement. Yeah, you can, it's hard to see, but you can definitely see,
What?
Things are interacting with it, so this should be good enough for what we're trying to do. Now, obviously, since it's shiny, it will definitely be faster, which is a good thing. For the top side, same idea. We'll just be using one heatsink to draw heat off of these two components here. If you notice, this is where I screwed up and I clipped it and it broke in half, so I had to kind of patch it back up with some more hot glue. For battery pack placement, I'm thinking I'm just going to put the packs up here kind of on the side pods on each side. So we'll do 1 and 2, and we'll do the awesome solution of zip ties for mounting. These are 26-inch zip ties, so a couple holes and probably 2 straps per battery, and we should be good. Once we connect the batteries together, we're gonna have to feed the wires through. So I'm gonna be taping off the ends because the battery will be live at that point. And when you're feeding the wires through, you don't want them touching each other and creating an arc. After feeding the wires through, I use these Wago connectors. You could also use wire nuts, but this is what I have laying around. And you just push those in, and you're good. For charging, I have just some old battery brackets laying around, and I'm gonna mount one on either side under the seat. That way I can just come in with my battery charger and clamp on like so. This battery, these cables are live, so once these are connected, these are going to be open. So if you put metal between here, it will short, but it's going to be underneath the seat, and I'm going to be the only person who's actually accessing it, so I'm not too worried about it. So let's go and connect our white is positive in this case because I didn't have a red wire, and our black is negative. And then finally, we have to the actual controller. Hook this up. All right, that's all hooked up. The only thing is I have this plug disconnected. This is to the 6-volt charge. We're not using it anymore, so it's disconnected. Just to make sure everything works. With the seat closed, you can't see the plugs, but when you pop this open, very easy to get to. So we just connect our red and our black. And then in this case, this is the charger I'm using. It just happens to be this is one I had laying around the garage, but obviously depending on what battery setup you use, that's going to determine your charger. Last little detail I almost forgot is need to put this cover back on, and then I'll go and screw that on off camera.